Alrighty then. Well, there's a few things that I've learned just through having this experience anyway, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a few things, especially for one subscriber who's going through some stuff right now and is going to be facing this situation soon and is pretty stressed out about it, which is understandable. When I realized I was going to be homeless, I was pretty stressed out about it. Yeah, I really was. And I'm still kind of stressed out. I still have all kinds of fears and misgivings, and I wonder what's going to become of me. And I think that's normal and natural. Let me just clean my lens here. I should really clean the lens before I start the video, eh? That'd be a better thing to do. Again, I'm not a very good cameraman, but bear with me. I mentioned in a comment to that fellow about paracord. This is paracord. This year I paid about $7 for this. It can be up high as $10 or $11 for a roll of it. This stuff here, you'll find a multitude of uses for. If you're in this situation, you'd be amazed how often paracord comes in handy. It can come in handy to tie off a tarp. If you're in a tent especially, you're going to need tarps and things. Paracord is really handy. Zip ties are another thing that are really handy. You'll find a lot of uses for zip ties too. With the paracord, even a situation like, say, if you break a bootlace, you can make a bootlace out of paracord. If you have to, you can use paracord as a bootlace. There's lots of things you can do with paracord anyway. It's good to have a roll of it on hand at all times. Same with zip ties. It's good to have zip ties around. Yeah. Also, shipping pallets. Shipping pallets. When you're homeless, shipping pallets are your friend. One thing about shipping pallets is if you can use them to get your tent up off the ground, you'll be warmer if your tent's off the ground. And also when it rains, you won't have problems with the rain coming through your tent. I learned that the hard way. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I learned it the hard way. But if you can make some sort of a platform out of shipping pallets and put your tent on that, that's not a bad idea. Another thing, which I know is going to sound kind of mean, but it's necessary. If you're camped in the woods in a tent, get yourself some boards, even like again shipping pallet wood. It's free, they're giving it away all over the place. Get some shipping pallet wood or something, and you drive nails up for the boards. You got your board like this, drive a nail straight up, drive nails all up through there, and lay those down 2 or 3 boards deep all around the perimeter of your tent. And the reason for that is it would discourage raccoons and coyotes and other animals like that from coming close to your tent. Another thing, if you're able to, you should have something to make noise. One thing that's good is a whistle or something. I had a whistle and I had a wind-up alarm clock when I first was homeless, and I'd wind the alarm clock off and set off the alarm, and the ringing bell would scare the animals away. Or I blow the whistle. Another thing that I had, and you got to be careful blowing a whistle because that can attract attention you don't want from people. So there is a danger in doing that. And really, in many ways, you have to be more concerned about people than you do about animals, because people will mess with you. People will call the authorities and report you for being illegally camped, because anywhere you are, you're going to be camped illegally, because it's not legal to live as a homeless person in Canada. So if you're in Canada and you're homeless, you're automatically, just your existence becomes illegal. Just the fact that you're not dead in a box in the ground means that you're a criminal if you're homeless. Automatically it does, which is sad, but that's how it is in Canada. And I think it's that way in a lot of places, really. But I can only speak for Canada because Canada is where I live, and that's how it is here. Anyway, getting back to the thing about people, if you find yourself in a situation of being homeless, well, be very careful with people, because people will come to rob your camp, basically to take your shit. Anything you have, any survival gear or anything you have, they'll come looking to see what they can steal. There's a lot of people on drugs and desperate, and even other homeless people. Sometimes other homeless people can be a real issue, because sometimes they are on drugs and they're desperate, and if they'll come, if you have anything of value, they'll want to come and steal it off you, so that they can turn around and sell it for a few cents, so they can go get high. If they get $10 out of it, well, then they can get a rock of crack or whatever. So you got to watch that. And also, you get people who are just shitty, and they'll turn you in. Like I say, they'll rat you out for camping somewhere, and then you'll have the authorities coming in evicting you. The other thing is, with people, there are people who will just go in and destroy your camp because they're assholes. No other reason. Just like you see these people that are out vandalizing things. They're spray painting things and they're smashing things all the time and everything. Well, those kinds of people love to come across a homeless camp. They love to come across a camp where some poor bastard is just trying to survive and completely wreck it on them. It's sad, but it's a thing that happens. Yeah, anyway, what else can I think of now? I'm just trying to think of different things. If you're camped in the woods, be very cautious and very conscious of the condition of the trees around your tent. I wrote all this down in a comment for this fella, but I'm making the video too, because I figure that may help him more than what I write. Sometimes trees are broke off up near the top, and the tree is basically broken, so it's doing this. You got the going up, and then it's doing this. And the top part is leaning into another tree, and that's the only thing keeping the top half of that tree from coming down. And the top half of that tree can have enough heft to it that if that comes down on top of you, it will kill you or it'll seriously injure you. And you can't afford that when you're in that situation. If it comes down on top of your tent, it'll flatten your tent with you in it. It'll flatten you and your tent both. So you got to be very cautious of that. And the same for anybody who walks in the woods, whether you're homeless or not. If you go hiking in the woods or whatever, look up periodically and check out the condition of the trees around you. Because an unstable tree can suddenly do something that you don't expect it to do. A good gust of wind can cause that to happen, or it can just happen because it was time for it to happen. But you do not want to be anywhere near a tree when it does something weird, because a tree can kill you. It's just as simple as that. When I'm working at the neighbor's place there and I'm cutting down trees, I'll tell you, I'm scared. When I'm running that chainsaw, there's so many things that can go wrong. And I've had them surprise me. Last summer, I can think of 3 different occasions where I nearly got seriously hurt. One of them was the saw kicked back and narrowly missed my legs. That was one. I came within a couple inches of catching me across my legs. That was frightening. And another time, it's a chainsaw. You get hit with a chainsaw, you're going to suffer. You're going to be a hurting boy, I'll tell you that. I was very lucky that didn't happen to me. But that's one of the things. And twice I had trees come down in a weird way that I didn't expect them to. At one point, I had to run for my life because the tree came down differently than I thought it would. And the way you cut a tree when you're taking a tree down on purpose with a chainsaw, you cut a tree purposely to make it fall the way you want it to fall. So there's ways of doing it. And the property owner there has taught me how to do it. And I'm not too bad at it, really. For the most part, the tree will go where I want it to. But still, a tree can surprise you. There can be a hairline fracture inside of a tree, or there can be something else going on with a tree that you can't know about. And you won't know about it until the tree does something weird on you. And I've had that happen a few times where the tree I was cutting did something I didn't expect it to do. And it came down in a way I didn't expect it to. And I'll tell you, you want to talk about a scary situation. I had one time come down the opposite way to the way I wanted it to. I wanted it to fall this way, but when I was about 3/4 of the way through it, it started to twist. It did this. And I knew what that meant. And I pulled the saw out of it, and I'm literally running down the trail with the saw. And I had parked my tractor. Well, not my tractor, it's the property owner's tractor, but I was using the tractor. I had parked the tractor in a place where it would have been perfectly safe if the tree had done what I wanted it to do. But instead of going this way, the tree twisted and it started to come this way. And the tractor was back here. So I ran and I cleared it, and it came down crash, and it got caught up, and it was just barely hanging on, caught up in the trees on the other side of the trail. Very unstable. Anyway, the tractor was parked directly underneath it. If it had come down on top of the tractor, it would have destroyed the tractor. So now I had a dilemma. Do I leave the tractor there? Do I leave the property owner's equipment there so that the tree can hit it and save myself? Because I don't have to go back. As long as I don't go back under that thing, I'm safe, But is that what I'm going to do, and let the damn tree come down on top of the tractor and destroy it? Well, I couldn't do that, That wouldn't have been a good career move. And I respect the guy too, and I don't want to be at fault for destroying an expensive piece of equipment on him. And I figured, well, I was the guy cutting this thing. It's my responsibility. And the reason he's got me there working is because he's 83 years old and he can't do it anymore. So I'm not going to have him come out here and move his tractor, and risk life and limb because a tree went the wrong way on me. And so I had to go back under that, and you want to believe I was scared because I knew just in a split second that thing can come down, and if it comes down, it's going to kill me. It's going to crush the tractor with me on it. It's going to kill me. It's going to kill me and the tractor both. And I remember being scared and climbing up onto that tractor and starting it up. And when I climbed up onto the tractor, the tree actually shifted and it came down a little bit, but it got caught up in some more branches. Anyway, lucky me that it did. And I got the tractor out of there, but I'll tell you, that was one hell of a scary experience. And got the tractor out of there, went back up to the house, and I had to get the property owner to come with the bigger tractor with the bucket on it, because I needed him then to push the tree to make the tree come down, because now it was a safety hazard. And so he did. He came out with the bucket, with the tractor with the bucket on it, and he pushed the tree the rest of the way down for me in a controlled way. But I'll tell you, that was a scary experience. There was another time I was cutting down a tree, and I intended for the tree to fall away from me. And you never be standing beside one of those things when it falls, because what'll happen is it can kick back. It can take your head off if it kicks back. the butt of the tree that you've cut, it can actually kick back at you. It can kill you. It could take your head right off. So as soon as it starts to fall, you run. That's what you do. You run away from it, and you have an escape route planned ahead of time. You know what direction you're going to run. You purposely cut the tree so that it will come down the way you want it to come down. But again, this particular tree surprised me. And what it did is, instead of falling straight over in this direction, it actually started to come back toward me, and then it went over in this direction, is what it did. It came back, and then it went this way. And when it came back, it pinched the saw. So now the saw was stuck in the tree. Well, I just let go of the saw. I released the throttle, and of course then the chain stopped turning. I let go of the saw, and I stepped back a couple of feet. And that's as far as I could go before I was running into a wall of prickly ash bushes with the friggin' thorns on them and stuff. And that tree came down literally about a foot in front of me. It came right down in front of my face. In fact, it took my hat off. It actually caught the brim of my hat and took my hat off. If it had caught my face, it would have taken my face off. That's how dangerous that was. It was very dangerous, and it was frightening, and it literally blocked my escape path. The only way I had out, and I couldn't go anywhere. The only place I could go is I could take 2 steps back, which is what I did. And if I had only taken 1 step back, that tree would have killed me. It was the fact that I had just enough room I could take 2 steps back, and that's what saved me, because the tree came down, like I say, it was that close, it literally took my hat off my head. That's how close it was. And so there's another example for you of how unpredictable trees can be, even in a controlled situation where you know what you're doing and where you have certain skills and you know how to make the tree fall the way you want it to. They can still do something weird that you don't know they're going to do. So how much more is likely is that to happen in a situation where a tree is unstable and you happen to be in its vicinity and a gust of wind comes or whatever, and starts to take the tree down. So that's why I say never set up your camp too close to an unstable tree. Always make sure you know what condition the trees are in around the camp where you are. And really reassess it daily, because it can change too. A tree can look perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden it don't look perfectly fine anymore. That can happen. Look at Rocky sleeping on his fish. Anyway, that's just another tip anyway, is be very careful about the trees around where you are. He's pretty cute, eh? He's wonderful. But that's another tip anyway for you. Be very careful of the trees around where you are. Like I say, paracord, zip ties, those are things you should have in your kit. Paracord, zip ties, shipping pallets, if you can get them and bring them to where you're camped. They're a good thing to have. You can use them to keep your stuff up off the ground. You can use them to keep your tent up off the ground. Like I say, you'll be far more comfortable if you're not right on the ground. They're a good thing to have anyway. You can use them for a bunch of things. And they're free. Most businesses that have shipping pallets will thank you to take them away. Now, don't go taking shipping pallets without asking from a place. But you know what I mean. And actually, some shipping pallets they have to pay a deposit on, and so they don't want to give those away because they'd lose their deposit. So it's always important, if you want to take shipping pallets away from a business, to actually ask the people if you can take any and what you can take. But Otherwise, fill your boots, take shipping pallets because they'll be happy to give them to you. You know, they're a burden to the people who have them in their business or whatever. It's a real burden to them to have them. Anyway, that's just a little bit of that I can think of off the top of my head. Be very, like I say, be very careful of people. Be very, very careful of people. Um, People, you know, you want to talk about the two-legged animals are the ones you got to worry about the most, really. The four-legged animals, well, them too, but just with a little common sense and a little planning and a little strategy, you can deal with the four-legged animals. The two-legged animals, though, they're a different breed entirely. So just be careful of them, you know. But yeah, that's about it. Anyway, if I think of anything else, I'll make another video. I probably will think of other stuff. This is just stuff I'm thinking off the top of my head. Now, one thing I should mention too is if you're using like a Coleman stove, like a propane stove, it's probably a good idea if you're able to, if you have the money to do it and you're able to get yourself an adapter hose like what I have and to run your Coleman stove off of 20-pound barbecue tanks like I do. And the reason for that is those little green 1-pound tanks, they don't last and they're really expensive. At Walmart right now in Smiths Falls, you'll pay $16 for two of them. That's $8 a piece. And they do not last. You know, they don't last very long. Plus, they create a lot of garbage. You know, you'd be throwing those green tanks away constantly, and you know, they create a lot of garbage. It's best not to use those if you can help it. So if you're able to do it wherever you're camped, and if you're able to get a 20-pound tank in there without too much hardship, you have a Coleman stove or whatever, a propane type stove, get yourself a hose like the one I've got outside there, and adapt your tank, adapt your Coleman stove with the hose to use a 20-pound barbecue tank. It'll last a lot longer and it's a lot more economical. You'll pay anywhere from $25 to $35 for a 20-pound propane tank, for like a barbecue tank. After you buy the tank, when you start into that program, you have to pay about $60 or $60 or $70 for a full tank of propane. What you're doing is you're buying the tank and the propane. Once you bought the propane and you're on the exchange program, you just bring your empty tank in and exchange it for a full tank. Any service station, any gas station that sells propane will exchange them. You know, and then it'll cost you just for the propane itself because you already own the tank. And so it'll cost you, like, on average, it'll be like $30 on average for a tank of propane. And a tank of propane will last a very long time hooked to one of those Coleman stoves. Anyway, that's just another tip. I'm going to shut this down now. Have a good night. We'll see you later.